All right, hello there. So today we're going to talk about domain and range. And so in class we've talked about domain and range a little bit. And again, you can print out these notes or take them yourself. I don't really have much drawn on here except I have some graphs available. You can just kind of pause the video and jot down what's on the page and then copy along if you like, or however you like to do it. Anyway, so domain. So we talked about in class how domain, these are your x values, right? And also known as your input. And the range are your y values, also known as your output. So with equations, this is easy to know, but I want to talk about graphs for a minute, or for quite a while. So your x-axis goes this direction, right? And so when you look at a picture and you try to tell me about the domain, you basically are telling me how wide your graph goes, like how long it goes in the left and right direction. And then when you tell me about the range that goes up and down, that's a vertical line. So you need to tell me how far your graph goes up and down. So how far does it go in the up and down direction? So let's add those words onto our definition right here. So our x values, they go left to right. It's the width of your graph, right? And the y values, they go up and down. This is the height of your graph. Okay, so all these pictures, we're going to think of the width and the height to write our domain and range. All right, we're going to write this in set notation like we did in class, and then I'm going to teach you a little bit about interval notation, which is a little bit easier actually. All right, so this one right here. Now this graph right here is supposed to have arrows on the end, so I'm just going to add some in there. That means it just goes up forever. So I want you to think about the width of this graph. This graph, as it goes up on the right-hand side, so this side right here, it goes up, but it also starts to go to the right, like it's like widening. This graph over here is going up and it's going to the left. And if you were going to kind of label the x and the y value that this thing approaches, you could say to yourself, if I try to label a point over here, it's going very far to the right. Well, very far to the right is infinity, and it's going up and up and up and up, so that is also infinity. So this is like my x and my y value of where this is going. All right, on the left-hand side, this arrow here is going up, 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 but as it goes up, it goes to the left. So in the x direction, it's going to negative infinity because it's going towards the left, and then it's going in the y direction, it's going up forever. Okay, and the other important point on this graph is right here, the vertex. That is at the point 3, -4. So these points are going to have something to do with your domain and range. All right, so my domain. How wide does this graph go? So if I try to like kind of draw a line where it stops, I don't really need one because it goes forever. So also what I can do is look at these 3 x values that I've put on here. All right, look at the smallest of those things. The smallest of those 3 x values is negative infinity, and the largest one is positive infinity. This 3 is just in between. The 3, that point down there has to do with the height of the graph, not necessarily the width of the graph. So the width of this graph covers all real numbers. So we're going to say that my x's are between negative infinity and positive infinity. Now you might see someone write it like this, a double R, that means all real numbers, or you could say the words all real numbers. But we're pretty much going to do it and write it like that, okay, for now. All right, so now my range. My range, if this thing is limiting, so my range, the lowest that this graph goes is right here. So as you can see that's -4, so that's the lowest, the highest is here. But that high number doesn't stop, it just keeps going up and up and up and up. So look at my y values, 1, 2, 3. So if I look at those y values, the smallest of those 3 things is -4, the largest is infinity. So that's what I'm going to put. So I'm going to put my y value between -4 is the smallest and infinity is the highest. Now infinity never gets an equal sign because you can't reach it, but this is touching the point right here at -4. So I'm going to put an equal sign at the 4, the -4. All right, so let's take a look here. So again, and just like this last graph, this new one is supposed to have arrows on the end of it. It's just the program doesn't put it on there. All right, so let's label these important points. This vertex right here is at the point 2, 0. On the right side, this thing is going very far to the right, so it's going to the right forever. That's infinity, that's my x value. My y value, this graph is going down, 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 so that would be negative infinity, going down forever. So it's kind of like the x and the y value of the endpoint. Over here, it's going to the left, so when x goes to the left, it goes that direction, so that's negative infinity. It never stops, and then it's going down also. All right, so let's take a look. So for my domain and my range. So my domain, if I look at the three x values, the lowest one, the smallest one is negative infinity, the biggest one is positive infinity. So again, I have my x stays between negative infinity and infinity. So now I say stay between, that's just every number, okay? My range, on the other hand, let's take a look. So the highest the graph goes is right here. Now you might want to be thinking that's 2, but remember that's an x value. I want the y value. So this level, this is height 0. So if you're on the y-axis right here, this is the height 0 that this graph goes to. So that's the highest it goes. And the lowest it goes is down here, negative infinity. So it goes from 0 and it goes down, 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 down to negative infinity. So negative infinity is smaller than 0. So that's going to be what I put first. So my y values stay between negative infinity on the left, which is the smallest, and 0 on the right. Now it is touching 0, so I'm going to put equal to 0. All right, so this one here. So this is a nice contained picture. This is actually almost easier. My domain and my range. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some lines around this thing. So my domain, the width. This thing is held right here to that number and right here. Now this graph is supposed to be by 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going from negative 4 and it's going to 6. So my x is between those numbers. Now this dot on the left right here is filled in, so I will put an equal bar. But the 6, the one over here, is open, so I'm going to put a not an equal bar. All right, so let's take a look now at my height. So the height of my graph goes from this level, that's the lowest, and this level is the highest. So that's from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 to 5. So my y value is staying between 1 and 5. And look at the 5. It has a filled in circle up here on the 5. So I'll put an equal bar. Okay, so here. So let's talk about our domain and range again. All right, so my domain. So this one's going to be broken. If I look at what's happening here, this one on the left, it's starting at negative 1, and then it's just going off that way to negative infinity. It's just like going, 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 going. So my first section, x is staying between negative infinity for the small number and negative 1. It has a filled in circle right here, so I'm going to put an equal bar. The x is also between, the next section starts at 1, and then it just keeps going that way. So it keeps going off to infinity. So 1 to infinity. So if you think about it, what's going on here is the graph exists from here back and also from here up. So those are the two sections that I'm going to name. So the x's are either from negative 1 to infinity, or the graph also exists from 1 on. So x is between 1 and infinity. Now this one right here is open, so I am not going to put an equal bar. All right, now I've messed this up a little bit, so I'm going to erase everything. My y values, my range, so let's do this. My lowest place I see on the graph is right here. Now the rest of the graph, this piece starts here, but do you see that piece is kind of included in this piece over there? So this graph on the left starts at negative 1, and then it goes up forever. This one goes up forever. So basically from negative 1 up, I have a graph. So my y values are between negative 1, because that's the lowest, and infinity is the highest. And it's touching the negative 1. It has a filled in dot, so equal bar. All right. So I want you to see if you can tell me Oh no, next one, sorry. All right, so let's do my domain and my range. All right, so my domain, my width. So think about the width of this graph right here. It is the farthest to the right it goes is this number there. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 is the farthest on the right. And over here, it doesn't stop. It just keeps going. So 4 and negative infinity are kind of like my boundaries there. All right, so my x stays between negative infinity, because that's a smaller thing, and 4. And it touches 4, because this is filled in. Now let's look at my height. The highest place on this graph, so this point right here is not really that important to me for my height. All right, the highest place on this graph is this level right there. So that is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it just keeps going down. So negative infinity to 6 is my high and my low, or my low and my high. So my y's are between negative infinity and 6. It's touching the 6 because it's touching that line there. And infinity you can never touch. All right, so I'm going to draw a picture here, and I want you to tell me the domain of this graph. So let me see. I'm going to put an open circle right here, and I'm going to go across with a line to right there. Write for me the domain of that graph. And I know if you can't write an equal bar, that's fine. If you need to say like less than or equal to, just put a less than symbol, then an equal to sign, and I can figure it out. Or greater than or equal to, whatever you need. All right, so hopefully for your domain, what you wrote me is that x is between, let's see, on the left it's at -3, and on the right it's at 4. So -3 to 4, and hopefully you put an equal sign after that less than symbol. All right, this guy right here, I want to know the range. So tell me the range of this picture. Let me draw one. So the range, I want to go draw a picture right here and an absolute value function that goes up from there. So tell me the range. All right, so hopefully for the range, you put a y here, and you looked at it and you said, well, the lowest place on the graph is -3, and then it just goes up forever. So for your range, you wrote it's between -3 is the low place and infinity is the high place, and it's touching -3, so you put an equal bar, hopefully. All right, so now it's time to talk about interval notation. So just a little bit more here. Now in class, we've been writing today interval notation. Interval notation is like with these inequalities. So like this green one, and we talked about this in class also. These are the same problems. But set notation is what we did in class. So in class, we did this. We said that this were x's between, and we wrote 2 to 9. This one over here, we said, x is greater than 1. Now we could have written it like this. We could have said, an alternate way we could have written it is that x is between 1 and infinity, because basically it's starting at 1 and going off to the right. This one down below, we wrote x is less than or equal to 10. We could have written this. We could have written that x was between 10 is the highest and infinity, negative infinity is the lowest, and we had an equal bar on the 10. For this piece right here, we wrote x is less than 5, or x is greater than or equal to 8. All right, so just remember that. Now we could have written that last one a little bit different also with the infinity symbols, but let's just leave it for now. So in blue, I'm going to write the interval notation, and you're going to see how much easier it is to write this way. So basically all you need for interval notation is you need the low and the high number. So my low number here is 2, my high number is 9. So 2, 9, and then if it's filled in, you put a bracket, like if it has a filled in dot or an equal bar, you put a bracket, and so another bracket. Okay, if it's not filled in, you put a parentheses. All right, so for this next one right here, at this green line, the low number is 1, and then it goes off to infinity. So what I do is I put those two things in a little a set, 1, infinity. Infinity you can never touch, so you put a parentheses, and this is open right here, so I put another parentheses. All right, on this one down below, the interval notation, let's see, it's going from 10 and it's going off to negative infinity. So these are my two numbers. My low and my high have to go in that order. So negative infinity, comma 10. It's touching 10, so I put a bracket. Infinity can never be touched, so I put a parentheses. Now in this piece here, it has two pieces, so I'm just going to have an or statement, but this one, low one on the left, is from negative infinity. And this one is stopping at 5. So I write negative infinity, comma 5. The 5 is open, so I put a parentheses. Infinity is always a parentheses. And then the word or in interval notation is this little U symbol, union. And then for the next one, I say 8 is my low number, and it's going up to infinity. So I write 8, comma infinity, parentheses, and it's touching 8, so I put a bracket. All right, so let's just do one more down here. How about if we had a piece or a domain or a section of a graph was this. Let's say it's filled in on -2 and it's going to 4, but it's open. So just one more to practice with. -2 is my low number, 4 is my high number. It's not touching 4, but it is touching -2, so parenthesis and bracket. Okay. All right. So I'm going to draw a picture, and I want you to write me the interval notation for this picture in your Edpuzzle. Here. Oh, no, I changed my mind. To there. Both open. All right, so in the Edpuzzle, I hope that you wrote -4, comma 5. That is an interval notation for that section. All right, one more. So for this one, I'm going to say, fill it in here and go like that. So write me the interval notation. And if you need the word infinity, just write the word infinity, or INF if you want. All right, so hopefully you did this, 1, comma infinity. All right, and then parentheses on that, bracket on the 1. All right, last one. So let's see. Let's do this one at 2 and go back. All right, so for this one, hopefully, remember this is going from negative infinity to 2, so I put those two things. 2 gets a parentheses, and infinity always gets a parentheses. And that is all, folks. I will see you in class.